So let's create a unit test for the statement printer. The statement printer should, let's move it in here, back bigger. So what a statement printer should do. So if I go back to my requirements, so this is the statement that I need to print to the console. So I think that a small test is to start, we could start with the header. So let's say statement printer should always print the header. So here, the statement printer should be printed to the console. So I think that it's time to introduce a console. So basically my test will be to verify if the console dot print line would be what is it? Date amount and balance. Date amount and balance. Okay, that sounds reasonable. And okay, so this will be my console. This will be a mock. Okay, and this should happen. So this should happen when I say statement printer dot print, and I will say, to start with, I would say no transactions. No transactions, and should always print the header, even if, so it should always print the header even when I don't have any transactions. So no, I don't want a, no, okay, let's create as a local variable for now, and no transactions. Let's create a constant, and here I will have as a collections empty list. Okay, so if I run this, I would get the unsupported operation exception. That's great. So in this case, to make it work, what I need to do is I need to pass the console in the constructor. And so let's create this constructor. And then what I need to do is console.println, and I want exactly this thing in here. So if I run this, right, so what's happening now is that my acceptance test is failing, because now the statement printer needs to receive the console and its constructor. Okay, so let's run the statement printer test again, and it's green. Cool. So I have my, so the console, the statement printer now always print the header. Let's make a tiny refactoring here. I will extract this as the header for statement header. Okay, that's a little bit better. Don't like strings hard-coded in the middle of my code. That should be fine. So now what we could do is, so a statement printer should print transactions in reverse chronological order. And what I could do, I could copy this. So what I would like to do is to, maybe what I could do something similar to this. So I could do this. So in order to achieve this, I will, here I want the transactions, and these transactions I will create a variable that will be transactions are transactions containing a, first will be a deposit. So the first deposit happened here, so it's deposit of 1000 on this date. So let's say we could say deposit of 1000, and then we would have a withdrawal, so on the second of how much, of 100, and then another deposit on the 10th of 500. Okay, so that sounds reasonable. So what I could do now is, let's create these methods, and this will return a transaction. This is the date, this is the amount, and return new transaction with date and amount. And then let's create this one. This will also be date, amount, this will be minus, this will be transaction, and then this one here, what I want to be, I want to be transactions. So this will return a arrays as list of transactions. Okay, so that compiles now. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a statement printer. I create the list of transactions, and then I ask the statement printer to print this list of transactions, and I expect in order for this to happen. So what if I run my tests? Okay, so this line here, that is this one, never happened. So now my test is failing for the right reason. So let's try to implement this now. So one of the first things that I need to do is, it's going to be a bit complicated because I get the transactions, but I need to print them in the reverse chronological order. I also need to calculate the running balance, and I need to format stuff as well. So I need to calculate the running balance. I think that so I need to go through this one. So I need to go through the transactions in the order that they are, so I can calculate the running balance. But I need to print in the reverse order. So first of all, I think that what I could do, I could map transactions to a statement printer line or something like that. Let's see if I can have a crack at it. Transactions.stream. So if I map my transactions to a statement line for T, and I need to accumulate the running balance. So running balance, I need something like that. Let's see if I can rename that to transaction. Let me just move these out of the way, and let make these a little bit smaller. So what I could do, I can create a local variable. I'll call it atomic integer for now, and new atomic integer starting with 0. So this one, what I expect is a string. So the first thing that I can do, so what I'm doing here, I'm converting a transaction to a statement line. So the running balance, I need to no, I think that what I can do is return the transaction dot date plus pipe plus transaction dot amount plus pipe plus running balance dot add and get transaction dot amount. I think that if I do that, that should be okay. So let's create these things. So the date, return date. I will need a public int that is the amount as well, and let's move them up. Okay, so once I have that, so now I mapped transaction to a statement line. I need to collect into collectors dot to list, and this can be essentially import as well, and I can assign this to a variable, but I will call it statement lines, and okay, so statement lines will be okay. So statement lines will be the transactions to list, and these will be, what am I doing? Okay, that's better. I will have a let's put it in here. Let's put it in here. So I converted transactions into statement lines. The thing that I forgot was to format the numbers. It needs to look like these ones. So I think that what I could have is something like decimal formatter dot format this, and format this one as well. And this one, I will create a field for this decimal format, and these will be new decimal format, like that. And I believe that this is wrong. What I could do, maybe I can do everything in a single line, I think. So if I do collectors dot to collection linked list new, so now I need to, so I mapped the transactions to a statement line. I collected them because then I can use the descending iterator. So this way I can traverse the collection from the end to the beginning. And then what I could do for each remaining console dot print line. So what would happen if I run? Yay, that works. That's awesome. So I think that what I could do is I would extract these. See, because they're not in the same level of abstraction. So this is printing the header and this is doing loads of stuff. So I can extract a method in here and say print statement lines, and that is a little bit better. And this should be private. So let's run the tests. Okay, that sounds good. So if I look at my tests in here, I'll make this a little bit smaller. I'll choose more, so I can, what I could do, I could have a before, I can transform this guy into a field, I can move this line up, and then I can remove this line. I can also remove these two lines. So my tests look a little bit better. So if I run, okay, typo. Okay, that's great. So another thing that I could do, I haven't implemented my console yet. So the console is a very thin wrapper on the Java system out, so just do that. Okay, so I think that that's time to run my acceptance tests. Let's see what happens. So if I do run this one, okay, it doesn't work. Haha, that's an interesting. Basically, I'm mocking the console and I'm mocking the clock, right? But in this test, I'm verifying the console, but the date, because the acceptance test is testing the real thing. So there's no place where I'm testing I'm configuring the clock mock. So that's what is happening, because the clock, the transaction repository is using the mock for the clock, but the clock is never configured, so it's returning null. So this line, of course, is never invoked this way. So what I need to do, I need to configure my clock to return these dates in here in order. That's what is missing. Right, so let's say given clock dot today as a string will return. Then I need 0104 2014 and then this will be 02 and this will be 10. So basically what I'm doing is as I'm using all the real classes with the exception of the console and clock, so when I create the first transaction, I want my clock to return this date. When I create the second transaction, I want this date, and then the third one this date. So if I run this now, should be okay. Yay! So finally, my application is implemented. And just in case that we would like to see how the real application would work, what we could do, we could say, let's say bank kata application. So then how would this look like? So we would create a main method. What I would like to do is new account, and the account has a transaction repository and a statement printer. So let's assign it to a variable, and so let's create this guy, and this will be new transaction repository that expects clock. Let's create local variable for clock, new clock. Let's create the real one here, and let's create statement printer, and the statement printer receives a console. Okay, so that's the real assembly for the application. Then I will say account dot deposit 1000, account dot withdraw, let's say 400, say account dot deposit 100, and account dot print statement. So that's how the real application would look like. And if I run this, then I have my statement. Of course that the date is the current date, that is today. So today is 12th of May 2015. So first I had a deposit of 1000, and then a withdrawal of 400, giving me 600 as a running balance. Then another deposit of 100, taking the running balance to 700. So there we go. That's Outside-In TDD, and I hope that it was useful.